welcome to the virtual world again on a Wednesday afternoon, so thank you for joining. I'm very excited today to welcome a very dear friend of mine, Richard Orme, who we're going to be talking about is your tattoo in the metaverse yet? But before we do that, Rich, thanks for joining. I know we've been talking about this for some time, but can you tell everyone a bit about you and a bit about your background, and then we can get into the main topic about how your focus in what you're doing today can really be accelerated using some great technology. But a bit about you first, if that's all right.
Absolutely. Nigel, thanks for having me on. So I suppose my background is best described as I've spent the last 17 years founding, operating, and recently investing in SMEs. So vast majority of my career has been in the SME space. And that's ranged from hospitality to construction, to services, to technology, to recruitment, vast variety of different sectors. Most recently, I now focus on working with other SME founders to help them achieve their goals. We'll first identify what they are and then work with them to achieve their goals. But most importantly, achieve their goals in what I would say is a post-Brexit environment. Now, that environment is not necessarily defined by the aftermath of Brexit, but it's a good milestone in time, which opens up the opportunities of what technologies are there to overcome the challenges of what Brexit has created. So that's my background. So it's always been SME, and now I primarily work with a selection of founders, helping them create their strategies to achieve whatever goals or points of success that they want to succeed, and then I help them implement it.
And I know we're not talking published book about how not to lose money in the crypto market, which I know we'll probably have a separate session on, but why? And that's a very current thing. But we're not going to talk about that today, because I want to hold the audience in temptation for your big release of your book.
Yeah.
However, I'm sure there are things in your book that are probably relevant today, because the market's gone absolutely nuts. But talking about the market in a way, I know we talked about Brexit, but what's front and center of mind and top of mind, do you think, for a lot of the SMEs currently? Because it's a very turbulent time for them, and anyone's kind of in the lower end of being a small company or even being a medium-sized business, it's a really rocky road at the moment. So what do you think is top of mind apart from Brexit?
Yeah, it's a huge deal of uncertainty for every size of business. Doesn't matter if you're an SME or a corporate. The SMEs I tend to work with in terms of size tends to be people that are 2 or 3 years out of startup. So they've probably got 3 or 4 employees, up to about 15 to 20 people. I do work with larger companies, but that's if you look at the 5.5 million registered limited companies in the UK, 92% are made up of less than 10 people. So it's the vast majority of the UK economy. What are they thinking right now? I think a lot of people are concerned about their revenue streams and cash flow.
Yeah, and so I guess it's a revenue streams where, from my world about in the kind of immersive technology space, that we can technology can really help and enable those new products and services into new markets. So what do you think are the biggest blockers for an SME today with thinking about technology, particularly around immersive technology, which is the virtual reality, augmented reality space, the modern technology? What's holding them back, do you think?
Yeah, okay. So I think if we do a bit of a kind of rewind of what is the metaverse, I think if you were to jump back in time and go to, the early 90s, right, which for me doesn't seem that long ago, but in technology it is.
Right? There you go.
And if you were to ask someone on the street, what's the internet, they'll give you the same look as people do today if you say to them, what's the metaverse? And then alongside my normal career, I've also invested heavily in cryptocurrency back in 2014. So I've been in this sector, preconception of where we are right now. And I remember having the same conversations back then of explaining what a cryptocurrency is. Now, because of where we are in the world, most people know what that is, but they probably don't know the technology behind it. So if we think about what is the metaverse, this all started with the blockchain. That's the blockchain technology that's allowing us to have this conversation about the huge potential of what the metaverse can do for small businesses. That came about with the launch of Bitcoin primarily. So you have this technology created for a cryptocurrency, but from that you have the development of Web3, which a lot of people are using as terminology. But what is Web3? So Web3 is pretty much got three pillars or functions to it, in my opinion. It's decentralization, which is the key thing of blockchain. It's token-based economics, so cryptocurrencies, and it's individual digital ownership. So people have heard the terms NFTs, but that's primarily what it is. It's individuals owning their digital footprints online. So I think all of that encompasses what I think Web3 is, and the output of that is the metaverse, right? So it's such a conceptual thing right now. If you look at it, actually, what's the applications of the metaverse? But it's a computer-generated universe. That's what the metaverse is. If you Google it, where if you say what's the internet, well, it's a computer-generated platform. So it's the natural progression from the internet to the next phase of a new technology that we haven't experienced yet. If you look at the history of the internet, just to kind of give this some perspective. So, do you know what the first search engine was? Before Google?
Oh God, I'm going back to my old days. Was it Mosaic was the first browser I got involved with in 1995? But what was the first engine? Was it Yahoo? No, was it? What was the first engine?
Yeah, well, Yahoo was the mainstream one, but in 1990 you had Archie, right? So no one knew about Archie because it was all for the tech bots around the world transferring their files around. And then in 94, I think, you had Yahoo, right? Then all of a sudden people got to kind of understand categorization of the internet, right? And then 2 years later you had the launch of Google. So in the space of 4 to 6 years, you had a technology which no one knew anything about. No one knew how to use it, how to apply it in business or in life or anything like that. To all of a sudden people seeing like the light bulb moment when Google came out and made it easy to find things. And then that was the evolution of Web 1, which Web 1 is effectively a platform where people can get information. It's a one-way street. People were posting websites, pretty basic websites, but the general public would use the internet to find information. There'd be no conversing with it. So then you fast forward a little bit in the life of the internet. Google gets traction, and then you start. I think the impetus was the launch of the Apple iPhone, right, in 2007. So from 96, you got the growth of the internet. You got some pretty basic websites, but then there wasn't much kind of interaction. And then you get Facebook coming out in 2005 with 1 million users. All of a sudden, the Apple iPhone, the technology, the hardware comes out. Facebook grows its user base from 1 million to 1 billion in 2 years, right? So it's that technology that people can virtually hold. All of a sudden, you've got Web 2's up and running. And what's Web 2? It's a dynamic internet. It's that interaction where people are posting information as well as drawing information from the internet, i.e., social media. So that's happened in an incredibly short period of time. Less than 10 years. You've gone from no one knowing about the internet to all of a sudden 1 billion people on Facebook with an Apple iPhone in their pocket. And if you were to ask, you ask a business owner in 1992 who's got a big clunky Nokia, right? Do you want to carry on your business? Yeah, I remember my dad had one. Right? He used to carry it in a charger.
Well, am I older than your dad? That's the same thing, isn't it? But I used to have one of those. Yeah.
This was late 80s. Anyway, digressing. But if you ask a business owner in the early 90s, right, do you want to carry on running your business, SME, as it is, completely as it is, with a telephone, visiting people, and nothing will change, or do you want to use this internet thing? And the majority of them will go, I don't know what that is. I'm just going to do it as I know how, and it works, right? That's where we are right now. If you ask business owners, do you want to carry on running your business using the internet, or do you want to think about how the metaverse can evolve your business to the next level, to Web3? And that's the question business owners need to be asking themselves once they can understand the potential that the metaverse offers every single business in the UK, whether you're selling skills, services, or products. It's all applicable to be transferred into the metaverse. There's going to be a collection of companies that are created because of the metaverse, like Google was created because of the internet, right? And we just don't know those companies yet. Yeah. They're coming. They're on the brink of being launched now, right? So the new Google is being created now. May have already been created. We just don't know.
Just have a little internet connection problems there, I think. But I think you were absolutely 100% right. You're describing about this inflection point that small companies will need to get over to get into the metaverse. About when you said it, the whole tattoo anecdote. Can you just share that with everyone? Because I thought that was fabulous. I was in my car, sitting outside the office, going, "Oh my God, that is a great analogy about what this really means." I know you've now got this new tattoo, but just tell that story that you and I were talking about this morning. I thought that was an example about the opportunity, right?
Yeah, there's an opportunity in every business, and this came to me while I was having my tattoo. Celebrate my midlife crisis, and I said to the tattoo artist, I don't know anything about tattoos. I said, have you even considered doing this as an NFT? And he was like, "What's that?" Okay, so let's talk about the metaverse. And then all of a sudden I saw the penny drop for him. It's like, that's your IP. You don't need to physically go and, apply tattoos to people and the avatars. But the design, the style of your tattoos can be put on an avatar, And he went, yeah, all of a sudden you can see this business owner didn't even know about cryptocurrency. All of a sudden is seeing himself sell his tattoo designs in the metaverse. And that's applicable to any business I see, especially, design, art, event businesses, experience businesses. I was thinking about this the other day, right? Think about Glastonbury as an example to business. And I'll jump on this thought that I've just had, the issues small businesses are facing at the moment, you call it from Brexit environment onwards, is a complete change of how trade is done globally, but also in our local, sector of Europe, right? Completely, the rule book's been thrown out where no one knows how that's going to go. We've also, every single business globally has a responsibility to be more sustainable. There's no point in having a business in 20 years if we're not sustainable, because there just won't be the environment to enjoy the rewards of it. So that's key. And the solution to both of these challenges is the metaverse. And no one's seeing that yet because they can't see how applicable it is in their day-to-day life of running their business and generating revenue so they can pay the bills and make profit. So sorry, what was my chain of thought there, Nigel? I've gone off on one.
We went from talking about a tattoo to sustainability, but I think what you're talking about was
So the whole idea of tattoo is great, that. But then the other one from a sustainability. This is why I talk about sustainability. On the sustainability point of view, think about the Glastonbury Festival, right? So there's so many different applications for metaverse, but think about events, sporting events. The mission statement of Glastonbury Festival is to provide a platform for youth to express their culture or something around those lines, on a global scale. But you can't go to the event. But imagine if you can experience the whole Glastonbury event through a metaverse application. So it feels like you're enjoying that new culture. But then the accessibility of that, there's two things here. The accessibility is then open to everyone on a global scale. It's not just the lucky 300,000 or so that get tickets, but also look at the sustainability elements of it. Look how much more sustainable that festival becomes. because there are less people requiring to actually physically go there and travel to the event. The runoffs are massive. So yes, there will always be the physical events. People always need that human interaction. That will always be there, in my view. But in parallel to that, the metaverse is going to provide a different option for people, and it will open up accessibility globally. Accessibility for people on a financial level, and it's just going to provide a much more sustainable way businesses to run, which is essential. What's the carbon footprint of Glastonbury? No idea, but I bet you if you were to integrate metaverse, it could be drastically reduced. So I think jumping back to your question, what's the biggest challenge that SME owners are facing right now in the UK? Primarily, it's revenue streams, securing those in cash flow. Well, there's such uncertainty because of the trade of Europe has been changed. Resources, human resources is all changed. So it's that immediate, okay, how do we survive in this new environment? But looking ahead, it's like, well, soon you're going to have to work out how you adapt to a whole new technology, which is the evolution of the internet to the metaverse.
Do you think those two pillars can actually be integrated together? So if you take the cash flow aside for a moment, even though the cash flow is going to be a beneficiary, a positive cash flow position will benefit from an increase of sales and products and services. That's a natural mathematical equation. But do you think bringing the metaverse or bringing in the strategy of immersive technology into an SME's mindset today, should that be now, not later? I mean, should SMEs wait for the metaverse to take a hold, or should they get a march on their competition by bringing it forward?
Yeah, okay, that's a really good point. I think there is a bit of let's not all jump into this all guns blazing as a small SME. Say turning over $1 million a year. You need to keep your SME running as it is successfully and as sustainably as you can, achieving the goals that you set out in a non-metaverse environment. I would approach it that you're looking at the transition of your services and skills over to a metaverse environment over a period of time. And it's the trigger is going to be the Apple iPhone moment. It's not there. I call it like the visual gate. So there is no visual gate into the metaverse yet. You got the Oculus or the Quest, but it's that's like the Nokia brick phone to the mobile phone. That's where we're at in technology. So when people get an easier visual gate into what the metaverse is, then they'll start seeing the transitional revenue streams into their traditional business model. So my advice to business owners now would be focus on what you're doing well in the non-metaverse world, but start learning and understanding how you can start transitioning into the metaverse world with potentially completely new products or transition or skills like the tattoo artist can then, all of a sudden, a tattoo artist in Fulham High Street can sell globally his designs to everyone who's got an avatar. All of a sudden, his potential revenue stream has just gone through the roof. 1,000x, billionx. It's crazy. So all of a sudden, you look at any business. Yes, there's going to be, what is revenue? Okay, let's look at a standard business structure of revenue. So revenue, in my view, is made up of kind of 3 pillars. So it's made up of demand, market demand for your product or service. It's made up of the reasons. So the reasons why your customers choose you, basically your business, and then about your competition. So how strong your competition is will affect how much revenue you're getting in, right? So the key of it is making sure that the 6 reasons: branding, sales and marketing, your efficiency, social impact, etc., are better than your competition, and then your revenue streams are going to be stronger. So when you transfer that over into the metaverse, if you look at demand, all of a sudden, where you might be a local business with a catchment area of demand, say in Paul, all of a sudden your services could be completely global through the metaverse. So there's going to be far more demand for your particular service or skills. Likewise, the reasons for your business, your services to be sold in Metaverse might be slightly different, but we'll have to wait and see. But the competition is it's also going to be far greater, because anyone can really kind of have access to that marketplace. So I see it's just going to drop down so many boundaries, and in doing so opens up so many opportunities. So the understanding of the new marketplace in the metaverse is where I would advise most SME business owners now just to start getting a handle of. It's not about transitioning just yet, to answer your question on time, because we don't have the proper visual gate into it yet, that everyone is going to have the mass market. But all of the makings of the technology are there through blockchain, through what Web3 is, decentralization. That word is key. If blockchain is a technology that's similar to the mobile phone. How the mobile phone changed the telecoms industry in the 90s is unrecognizable. When I don't have a landline number. I haven't had a landline number for a decade. It just doesn't happen. The blockchain is the same for the financial services sector, in terms of DeFi, but also it extends out into, individual digital ownership, in terms of people owning their data online in the universe now. So there's a lot to think about, but it's happening. Yeah.
So it's not a matter of if; it's just a matter of when.
Oh yeah.
Your advice to everyone is to the SME space is, if you believe you are ready, then enter the metaverse market, but be cautious with it, because again there is no visual gate, as you say, but there is plenty to benefit from depending on what your product or services are. And offering, which we're seeing in the enterprise space and the corporate space. Again, we're seeing the great work that I keep on referring back to. The example I use often is the Toyota, who are really were the founders of Kaizen and implemented Lean to everyone in the world and gave us Lean, really, but they're still improving it. And actually, it's the immersive technology and the industrial metaverse that's giving them those improvements in a very well-defined set of supply chain and manufacturing processes. So what we call in the kind of enterprise space, we say the industrial metaverse is business improvement, business process improvement. That's what it is. And for the SME space, it's making those improvements to sales and marketing processes, and there's a real benefit by not waiting, but there's some real challenges by waiting too long to get into it. That's my concern, is everyone waits too long and the market's moved on, and those players that are in it will block everyone else coming into it. So what's your advice for that?
Okay, so if someone who is fairly kind of tech savvy was to say, well, the metaverse is just Decentraland. We've all heard about Decentraland, the cryptocurrency, where little pixels are being sold for millions of dollars. You had big corporates kind of buying up these pixel spaces, for the new kind of high street of Oxford Street, all that kind of stuff. Decentraland is, the Archie of the internet Googles. Right? So, the next generation in the next 4 years, well, the evolution of Decentraland to the next metaverse is going to be the Yahoo, and then 2 or 3 years later, you'll get the Google moment. So I think from a time frame perspective, it's about having awareness and seeing what you can easily transfer into the metaverse to make your day-to-day business run more efficiently. Better meetings, for example, less travel, so you're more sustainable. Better training videos or applications to train, especially in the health sector. The metaverse gives the global population better access to healthcare. Straight away, and you can see in terms of the growing middle classes in the not so much the developing countries now, but Africa and Asia, they're going to be approaching different ways of life, wealth generation with a completely different mindset, and it's going to be based on blockchain, Web3, and Metaverse. So as a UK business, setting up stall within the Metaverse, however that looks for them, all of a sudden it's just as easy to sell, to this new emerging economy in Africa or Asia as it is to the local UK market. Because of the accessibility of it, the function of blockchain in terms of revolutionizing DeFi, decentralized finance, and people having their own ownership of their digital footprint. It's vital SME owners now get a really good understanding of what it is, because it's going to happen really quick. It's going to happen really quick. And, 6 years in business is not a long time. And that's all it took to get from nothing to Google. It's between the next 6 and 10 years. If you're running a successful SME that you want to create a legacy to pass on to your family, or, have an exit plan where you're going to be selling out to senior management or trade sale, if you don't have an element that considers future growth potential, then your value of your business is going to be far less. And so if you want true stakeholder value, a big part of your pitch to whoever you're selling your shares to needs to include Metaverse, revenue generation. And so that potential buyers are going, okay, these guys really thought about that transition that's coming. And that's the kind of thing we can help with at SME.exec.
So this is why I'm actually, thank you for teeing me up nicely to talk about how they get help, right? So we talked a lot about stuff that you and I kind of think, it's a no-brainer. You just get into Metaverse, it's no big deal. You can create products and services. But the vast population, when I said it, we both said it's not if, it's just when. And you just said, well, actually, that when could be a very short space of time. So that when moment is going to happen pretty quickly. And that could scare a lot of people, right? Because if you're an SME owner that is just focusing every single day on the tasks at hand, the activities at hand, just to make sure they can keep the revenue streams and make sure the cash flow is very positive, the whole Metaverse thing could be quite scary. And it does need a lot of help and guidance, right? So, this is why we're talking to you today, because you've got a huge wealth of experience in this space, but particularly aimed at a particular market, which is the SME market. And you've just really recently created a business just to focus on this, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. The SME.exec, it's all about unlocking the full potential of the UK SME economy. And basically, that's the post-Brexit era. So it's the repercussions of what Brexit is in terms of trade routes, but it's also the new adoption of technology to overcome the biggest challenge that we all face, which is climate, and creating businesses that have less of an impact on the planet, but still generate revenue and profit. That's the key. That's the balance, and that needs to happen. If we're talking timeframes, that needs to happen next year, right? So the advancements of Metaverse technology is critical to the fight against climate change, in my view.
This is the business you've created, so you can all the SME owners listening in today or in the future, you might be listening on a podcast archive or something, will look back and go, I want to talk to Richard Orme. How do I do that? How do I get a hold of Rich? How do I get Rich to help me?
You know what? Just give me a call. Old fashioned. Just give me a call on the mobile. Send me an email. I'm sure with all the details.
Which I will put on the messages below on the LinkedIn live session as well. But
send me an email or direct message through my LinkedIn, and I can get back to you. That's no problem at all. That's another thing that the Metaverse is going to do. It's just going to swallow up every form of communication and interaction. So it's going to happen. WhatsApps, messages, direct messages. You can get lost in that running a business. It's all going to be encapsulated within a Metaverse environment in terms of how we interact on a business level. Anyway, and I look at it like this. If you run a small business, you're pretty much spending a lot of your time looking at a screen, whether that's your desktop or your phone. Actually, most people in life are just staring at the screen. What the Metaverse does is breaking the screen. That's the leap we're taking. Okay, so we're breaking the screen. So our interactions day to day, you look at TV, you look at your phone to talk to people, to do the shopping, to book your tickets on holiday, everything's on a screen. We're breaking the screen, and that's what the metaverse is going to do. And for that to happen needs that Apple iPhone moment of technology beyond the Quest, where I think, and this is my punt, if someone's going to look at this in the future, I think it's hologram. I think it's phones with the hologram capability to produce a metaverse environment in your reality environment. And then if it's that easy, 20 years, I don't know, 20 years ago, if you were to say to anyone, you're going to walk around 99% of your waking time with a computer in your pocket, you say, no, I'm not. And we all do it, every day. And so that same physical thing that we can know and touch will be that visual gate, that the Apple iPhone moment where all of a sudden the metaverse just gets mass adoption. And that's, businesses need to see that coming and adapt their revenue streams to one, make the most of that and transfer over, or look at new sector and skills that they can apply into it.
Well, this is a topic. This is a topic in its own right. But as SMEs are getting ready for the products and services in the metaverse, there's also a whole set of a new economy coming up from an employment perspective, a whole set of new talent that they can really benefit from, that will have the metaverse just as a business as usual. They kind of grown up in it. So our kids of our age, they're going to be walking into a whole economy that will be metaverse enabled and metaverse ready, and will have no baggage of the old economy, of the old styles of running a business. Will all be new. So I think that's something that business owners should be leveraging now.
Yeah, for sure. Look at the generational gap between you and I starting out in business, where there were no mobile phones, there was no internet. So we knocked on doors and talked to people. How archaic does that sound now to, an 18, 20-year-old coming into the business environment? Christ, I've got to make a phone call. That's a big thing. All right. So it's going, the mindset of the younger generation who are born with an iPhone in their hand are so much more, I think, open-minded and able to accept and understand the potential that the metaverse has in a business working environment. And it's that toss-up, isn't it, between reality and still having your social interactions in reality, and how far does it go in the metaverse? But most teenagers are staring at their phones 9-10 hours a day, right? So I actually think the metaverse will improve well-being for people that use their phones too much on a social level or on a business level. I think there'd be far more interaction in a metaverse. It will feel much more real, and I think people will get far more benefit from it than what they are now, just staring at screens all day. So that breaking the screen, I think, is a really good phrase for people to get their mind on what's the metaverse. When the moment we can break that screen and we can have all these functions that we're used to, but even better within a universe environment, i.e. metaverse.
I think, this is a whole other topic. We go down this rabbit hole, but I think there's a whole set of new opportunities for a whole set of people that have been not included, who are socially finding it difficult. And
it's a much greater marketplace for
opportunity for a whole bunch of people. It's fantastic.
It is. Anyone from any background in any location can have the same opportunities as someone that went to public school and was brought up in London. They're getting there now, but with the metaverse, it truly is a door to creating business.
It's a level playing field for everybody, no matter what size your business are, what your background is, or whatever difficulties you're having or advantage you're having. It's a level playing field, which I think is what this world desperately needs.
Yeah, and I think we should gloss over digital ownership as well, individual digital ownership. So people will have control within the metaverse and can generate revenue through their own input. Say the tattoo artist, right? He puts his tattoos in the metaverse. That is his digital ownership. He's through an NFT, and that's a whole new revenue stream. And that digital ownership can go from design to skills to teaching languages to the whole gambit. It can be generating revenue on the metaverse. And there's going to be more than one. And that's the thing I still get my head around. I can't get my head around. So we're just used to the internet, right, and Google, effectively, right? But there will be more than one metaverse that are applicable to different types of industries.
There's going to be one in the end.
You think? I don't know.
Yeah,
we're
really got to have one in the end.
I don't know.
Well, we'll see. It depends on how interoperable the technologies will be at the end of the day. So I think when, as a software development companies, we are, thinking through right now, we design the solutions for a particular channel, right? Whether it's going to be the Meta or HoloLens or whatever it might be. But eventually that's going to have to cancel itself out, because to have the metaverse to be ubiquitous across any individual, any device, then we need to have one metaverse or worlds within a metaverse. But I think there needs to be this kind of real drive towards interoperability to break down the barriers. Otherwise, we're going to have this kind of, when you think about standards, you think about governance, you think about compliance to the metaverse, which is not there by a million miles yet.
No. We're just getting there. We're not there with crypto yet. Soon.
So we're going to have to get there, right? So we're going to have to really have a unified approach to the risks, the governance, and the compliance, and the security, and around, particularly around data sovereignty. Data sovereignty will go out the window when you have a metaverse, but it needs to have controls in place around it. Therefore, I think particularly as SMEs are controlling a lot of data, as you said, the quantity of SME businesses in the UK is huge, and they hold a lot of data for their customers around the products and services they're selling. So data sovereignty is a big issue. So I think, again, this is another big question. Maybe the whole topic in its own right in terms of governance and compliance for the metaverse. But there will be at some point for the metaverse really to be global and ubiquitous, and to have everyone being able to attend in it and live within it to the hours of the day we're all expecting. And there was a recent report and research done that saying that even today, kids and teenagers spending 4 or 5 hours in the metaverse. So I think that's just going to grow, and adults are going to grow, and all that kind of stuff. We need to have one metaverse. Yeah.
Okay. You use the word global. Then the global doesn't exist in the metaverse. That's really to get your head around. So that we're no longer defined by global geography. So it's universal.
The people in the countries are using the headset. So I'm talking about everyone in the world using it. Well, let's not use global. Let's use every nation in the world, and every person in those nations using the metaverse. That's kind of the global nature of it, even though digitally it doesn't exist, because it's just between here and there. But I do know what you mean. But I think we do have this we have these boundaries to get over. I think we have these gates to get over the next couple of decade and a half, maybe, before the metaverse is everywhere. But I don't, but to your point, I think industry will be the real driving force behind also making the metaverse become real and everywhere, which it will happen. But to your point, we're talking about a decade. We're not talking about 2 or 3 decades or 4 decades. For an industry, or maybe under a decade, for the industry to take hold. And the airplane, look at the airplane industry. That took 50, 60 years. That took 6 or 7 decades to get a stranglehold. This is all of it globally within such a short space of time.
Yeah, again, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen with companies like yourselves that are providing great technology for people to access it. And it comes down to trust and understanding. Remember the internet? No one put their credit card on the internet because that was dangerous. And all of a sudden, think twice about it now, because there's that trust and understanding of what it is. And that human nature, that takes years, a few years to get around. It's going to be a journey for people to experience what it is beyond, the world of gaming, which is, huge. If you just look at gaming in the metaverse, it's going to be the largest sector in it initially, but that will push the boundaries. But, if you're an SME in the UK, gaming is about life in the metaverse. There's so many upsells and there's so many revenue opportunities in that in itself. It's not about being in the game, but buying a product, a design, an experience. All these things are going to be happening pretty soon. within our working lifetime. Let's put it that way. But I think time-wise, the pressure's on due to sustainability and the need for businesses to take a different approach of how they generate revenue. And I think
what a time to be a tattoo artist.
Amazing, eh?
It's mad, isn't it? So I think from somebody that makes, I think what I've heard from you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I want you to give your final big piece of advice to everyone who's an SME thinking about entering the metaverse. But from what I can gather, you're saying it's not a matter of when, sorry, not a matter of if, rather, it's just a matter of when. But the pace of that when will be very short. It's not something that an SME should be scared of, the word metaverse. It's something they should be embracing. And they need to bring the metaverse into their strategy sooner than later. And if it is later, don't worry, but plan for it, because you can get increased valuation if you are looking for an exit. There's some real upside in having a thought about it. And there's a whole new generation of employees that they can tap into. They're going to help them get there. So they're kind of the things that I've picked out from our call today. But is there anything that you think is the one big piece of advice from Rich to all the SME owners out there about getting into the metaverse? What would that be?
Don't panic. All right. Don't panic.
There's going to be a new mud coming from you. Don't panic, get into the metaverse. I think that's going to be one.
No, don't panic. Give me a call.
Don't panic, give me a call. Your number. I want to put your mobile number, but I'll give the way to reach you.
You know, it took a good few years for people to really truly understand what the internet was going to do for their businesses, and we're at that point. So think about it that we're pre-Google in terms of technology sense with the metaverse. So it's not going to happen tomorrow. You know, businesses will still be businesses as they are today, as they will be in the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But if you want to have the advantage of your competitors, if you want to create extra revenue streams, and it's not about transferring your revenue stream of what you have now into the metaverse. It's about adding revenue streams to your standard non-metaverse business model, and the opportunities that brings is just huge. So yeah, the key thing is it's happening. Get to understand the implications to your particular SME and how you can start benefiting from it while we're in such an early stage of the evolution of that technology. Whether that's one element of what Web3 is, maybe digital ownership or token economics, improving how your payments are made through token economics, or starting to sell some of your product designs through NFTs. So there's little aspects of the metaverse that you could do right now quite easily. And it's not that stopping today your business and jumping into a whole new way of doing it. So it's understanding what those small little opportunities are now that are relatively straightforward to start integrating into your standard business model. But one bit of advice is it's happening. With whether you like it or not, it's happening, and it's only going to get easier and better to run an SME in the UK. I believe, and far more sustainable with the tools that the metaverse provides and what makes up Web3. So let's understand what it is. Decentralization, huge opportunity for an SME. Digital ownership, huge opportunity. Token economics, huge. All that is the metaverse. So hope that's helpful.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's really good advice, and it's again, I want to thank you for that. Maybe I can see you in the pub. You're around the corner. Maybe I'll see you in the pub later. You never know. But listen, thank you very much for taking the time today. I know it's been you're very passionate about it. I know you're very passionate about sustainability as well. Do you think the two are very interlinked? So I really want to thank you for your time, and I will put in the description of the LinkedIn Live how to get a hold of you if anyone wants to do that or connect with you, at least on LinkedIn, which they should do. And I can't wait for the book to come out.
We'll do another one for the book. But if people do want to get in touch with me, I offer a free 2-hour. So just pick up the phone. We can schedule a call, and there's no commitments, and we can see if we can be of help to anyone.
Well, great. Well, thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. And again, thanks everyone for joining the virtual world on LinkedIn Live. Have a great rest of the week. And again, keep an eye on future guests that are coming onto the virtual world, and I will see you all very soon. Again, Rich, thanks very much. I'll see you later, buddy. All right,
Yep.
take care.
Cheers then.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.